I have with me Robin Ficker, a former candidate for public office in Montgomery County last year, and who is contemplating a bid in Maryland's 6th Congressional District this year. Robin, welcome.
Nice to be with you, Ryan.
Absolutely. So I take it that you listened to my interview yesterday with Congressman Delaney on the Iran deal, and I just wanted to get your thoughts on that.
Well, I think just as important as your interview was the virtually simultaneous announcement that Senator Mikulski, a crony of Congressman Delaney, announced that she was going to be the 34th vote so that Obama's plan is going to go through because the Senate does not have the votes to veto his plan any longer. All this shows is that elections matter. If we had a Republican president, we wouldn't have this Iran plan. If we had a Republican senator or a middle-of-the-road senator instead of Senator Mikulski, we wouldn't have Senator Mikulski being the 34th and deciding vote. Elections matter. And if we had a different congressman, we wouldn't have a congressman who is in the 16% most undecided of all members of Congress, the 71 members of Congress that have not announced their decision, who couldn't make up their mind. If we had someone who was a leader, someone who was decisive, someone who had come out against the plan as I would have, then we wouldn't be worrying about what Congressman Delaney was trying to make up his mind about. We need someone who can make a decision in Congress. We need a Republican senator. We need a Republican president. If we had all of those, we wouldn't have this bad deal.
I saw that you attended the speech that Congressman Delaney gave at the Beth Shalom congregation last Thursday evening. And I was just wondering, I wanted to get your take on his speech. What do you think of the outline in which he gave? Because he gave from both sides, but he still said at the very end of his speech that he is undecided.
Well, he'd had weeks to make up his mind, and we need someone who can make up their mind, and he's not that person. And what disturbed me even more was that they announced before that meeting that they wouldn't allow filming and they wouldn't allow questions. There were no microphones out in the audience. Then after social media controversy and criticism, he decided to take some, at the very last minute, some hand-picked questions where his guy picked who could ask the questions, and then he very hurriedly answered them and ran home. So I contrast that with the wonderful congressman we had at the Frederick dinner, Lincoln Day dinner last night, who answered questions for an hour for all the people in attendance at the dinner. And that's the kind of congressman we need, someone who will be energetic, someone who will be enthusiastic, and someone who will be forthright and decisive in announcing their positions.
Why do you think that Congressman Delaney has not yet released his opinion on the Iran deal, or how he would vote? Not he's released an opinion, but he hasn't stated yet how he plans to vote on the deal.
Well, I think he was waiting for Senator Mikulski to become the deciding vote, and I believe they picked her ahead of time because she has nothing to lose either way. She's not running for re-election. So he was waiting for her to make that decision, and now he can make a political decision rather than expose his true thoughts. It doesn't matter what he says now because the votes are in the Senate to uphold the deal, and it really doesn't matter what he thinks. What does matter is that he was indecisive. He did not exercise leadership, and perhaps if he'd have come out in a strong, forthright position, he might have influenced Mikulski, who was the deciding vote.
Robin, you're a long-time legal mind. You've been in many courthouses, and you understand how law is created not only as a former lawmaker, but on the other side of it as an attorney. And As it stands now, Robin, is this a good deal or a bad deal for the United States?
Well, I don't like the fact that our hostages, imagine if it were your family member, they were not released. And, I think that Donald Trump made a good point when he says that we need to get the financial edge in the deals we make. Instead of Iran getting upwards of $100 billion, we should be getting that money out of this deal. They should be paying us a price for relaxing any sanctions. So we just have poor negotiators, we have poor deal members, and we have indecisive members of Congress, especially one in the 6th District of Maryland.
How bad would it be that if this deal would go through and then it would break down and the Iranians would break their promise as laid out and outlined inside of this deal? What would happen if they did get a nuclear weapon?
Well, it could be a catastrophe, and maybe we can revisit this when we get a Republican president and when we get some strong leaders in charge in the Congress. Maybe we can revisit this at a later time. I hope so. I mean, these negotiations are always subject to reconsideration.
Well, right, and the congressman has said that at this time he thinks that there may be a possibility that they could get a better deal. However, I think that this is the deal that they made. They're going to vote on it. They're going to give an up or down vote. Now, the congressman could vote a couple different ways. Obviously, he could vote yes or he could vote no. But, Robin, do you ever see a scenario playing out in which Congressman Delaney could vote present?
Well, he could vote any way that he decides back at his house there outside the district. But I don't think it matters because now there are the votes in the Senate to uphold President Obama's position. We've watched the Delaney dance, and he has not been the best dancer. He's been in the bottom 16% in the group of people that have not been able to make up their mind when it really counted. And now, when the decision is in, it's almost like voting for guilty or not guilty as a juror when you know what the vote is going to be ahead of time of every other juror.
Right. What do you think this deal? What does it mean for Iran?
Well, it means that there's going to be a lot more trade with Iran. Many of the other countries are going to be trading, and I'm sure that some of the American entrepreneurs are going to go to Iran, and hopefully they'll be good negotiators and they'll make out well. I hope so. Sure.
And, Robin, I wanted to ask, do you have any final thoughts about the deal and the 6th Congressional District?
Well, I think it just shows that, what struck me was that he was indecisive and that he wouldn't take questions, general questions, open questions from anyone who wanted to come in. He didn't really want to hear from his constituents, and I contrasted that with the Pennsylvania congressman who spoke last night at the Frederick County Lincoln Day dinner, who answered questions on any subject, who spoke his mind and was very forthright. And here we have someone who can't make up his mind. And we've had indecision, indecisiveness, and lack of accomplishment in the Congress for too long. That's why people make the joke. If pro is the opposite of con, what is the opposite of progress? The answer, Congress. And Congressman Delaney is part of the problem, not part of the solution.
So I want to ask you, Robin, about this congressional race. Should you decide to run and should you move forward in a bid, what separates you from the rest of the candidates?
Well, I've been working on this term limits proposal, which when we get it passed next year, it's going to ensure that 5 Democratic office holders in Montgomery County won't be able to run for re-election, and they've all been 5 tax increase specialists. I think what separates me is that I'm the jobs guy. I want to bring jobs to Western Maryland. I want to develop the Hagerstown Airport as a major international airport, an alternative to BWI, Reagan, and Dulles. I want to build a wall so that American companies stay in the United States. We need a wall to keep them in, a figurative wall. I drive a Ford Escape hybrid, and Ford is spending $2.5 billion to build 2 plants in Mexico. They could be building them in Western Maryland. I'm a stockholder in Apple. They've got 500,000 jobs in China and 10,000 in the United States. It should be reversed. Some of those jobs should be in Maryland. Some of the jobs of Facebook should be in Maryland. These big Oreo, I mean, you can't think of a more American company. They're moving to Mexico. They should come to Western Maryland, and we need someone who goes after the jobs here. Fairchild's gone. Kelly's Tires is gone. We've had Bosch and Loam, they're gone. We've had so many companies move out, and we need to reverse that trend. We need jobs in Western Maryland so that our young people, our young and smartest people, will stay here, work here, and be all-American successes.
Robin, before you go, I wanted to clear up. And I'm glad you're with me today so you can speak to this. So you attended the Washington County Republican picnic, and the newspapers said that they quoted the president of the Washington County Republican Club that you just grabbed the mic, but you arrived after the candidates had spoke and wanted to speak. Could you just speak about that situation, because there seems to be some confusion about what happened, and I figured since I have you, you can speak directly to the situation.
Sure. I drove from CNN downtown, where I had been recording a Nancy Grace episode, up to Hagerstown. And by the way, that made even more clear in my mind why we need to put new reversible lanes on I-270 from Montgomery Village up to Frederick. It took me a while. I got stuck in the traffic. When I finally got to the Washington County picnic, I heard the last candidate just ending his talk. I had to sign in, and then I went up where I perceived that the candidates had been talking. They were all gone. I asked, "Where's the microphone? Who has the microphone?" No one answered. There was no one there. I looked around. I went over and I saw where the microphone was, and I asked a lady who was standing there. I had no idea who she was. I asked her, could we turn this on so I can make some comments? She turned it on. People were lined up trying to get food, and I thought, I'm going to talk about jobs in Western Maryland at every opportunity, and that's what I did.
Yeah, I saw the video, and I'm sure that many people appreciated that you were talking about the issues and putting your position out there. So I hope you will do that again by coming back on. And, my job, or my goal at least, is to cover all the candidates fairly and make sure everybody has a fair shake. And I always appreciate your flexibility, Robin, and your willingness to talk to me and to do these types of interviews.
Well, thanks. I'll be on Nancy Grace tonight at 8 o'clock on the HLN Network, and I hope to be in another discussion with you that you have after this September 16 Republican presidential debate, because I enjoyed the last opportunity to be with you on the previous debate very much.
Absolutely. We'll have you back, and I plan to do another show to recap the presidential debate, like you said, coming up in September, and I think that's going to be a lot of fun, and we had a great time and a fun discussion after the first Republican debate. So, and who knows, there might even be some more candidates, or maybe there'll be less. You never can tell. This race is so much in flux.
Well, I believe in taking part in public discussions of the issue. I believe in a very robust discussion of public issues. I believe in blogging, making comments constantly on the internet, because that's how people are communicating these days. On Facebook, I often comment on your posts, and I think that the public keep in mind that the public is the employer here, the congressman is the employee, and the public needs to know what their employee is doing, and also they need to have the opportunity to tell their employee what he should do or she should do.
No, you're right, Robin, and I'm glad that you're thinking about running, and I'm sure that once you decide, you'll let us know. So with that, yeah, go ahead.
I certainly will, and I'm looking forward to the time when Congressman Delaney is promoted to being a member of the public at the end of this present and last term of his, and I'm looking forward to his suggestions as well as all the other suggestions as to how I should perform on the Hill.
Yeah, that's right. So, all right, Robin. Well, hey, good luck on Nancy Grace tonight, and we'll be chatting very soon. And you can find a copy of this recording on my website at ryanrminer.com after we finish. I'm going to try to have it up by the end of this evening.
Well, thanks. You know, one point that I haven't made before.
Sure, go ahead.
That I sort of grew up on the Hill. My dad worked in the Congressional Research Service of the Library of Congress for 40 years, and he would always bring home position papers. He would often show me in the congressional record where a speech he had written was given by one senator on a subject, and then a speech he had written on the other side of the same subject by another senator that he had also written appeared the same day in the congressional record.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting. Very interesting. A lot of history, and then one of these days I'd like to get you back on, and we can give a recap of the 6 congressional districts candidate history. It goes way back, and there's some really interesting people. And right around the corner from where I grew up in Hagerstown, there's a good old congressman named Beverly Byron, and her husband was Goodloe Byron. And he died right young. He died of a heart attack while, I believe, jogging on the C&O Canal, and then Beverly took over. And then I know that you ran in 1984, and like you said, you got the most votes out of any Republicans in the district.
Well, I got the most votes of any Republican who ever ran against her in a general election. Roscoe ran against her in an election too and didn't do very well, but then later on he put his name in. She was defeated in a Democratic primary, and the people that were sympathetic to her supported Roscoe, and that's how he got in Congress for a good long while.
That's right. He was there for over 20 years.
Yeah.
Or 20 he might have gotten elected in 1992, I believe.
Yeah,
and
I saw him in court the other day in Frederick. He was there as a witness in some protective order case, and he's very active. He's looking good. He's building like 5 houses now in the Frederick area. It's hard to keep a good man down.
That's right. Robin, I appreciate your time as always, and I look forward to us speaking again in the near future.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Ryan.
Take care. Bye-bye.